The last topic I would like to discuss today is developing mentors and trainers, or even school leaders in general. So, a few of there are many challenges, but here are three of them. One thing highlighted was that teacher trainers or mentors, um, not all of them, but a good number of them, they haven't been teaching in the classroom for a long time. Just to give you some context here, I think the greater part of the conversation we had in Brazil was about public education. So basic education, compulsory education, and public or state education, so free education provided by the government. So the point was that when a teacher trainer goes to a school, or the teachers go to a training center or to a conference or what have you, um, the teacher trainers are talking about great ideas and methodology, etc. But in reality, they have not, they haven't got the essence, the reality of the context of the participating teachers. So they might be talking about a great idea for classroom activities or methodology or development, but teachers feel that that is not their reality. It won't fit in their context. So that's a challenge. Secondly is lack of continuity and legacy. So here we're talking about, well, they talked about, for example, an education authority or a Ministry of Education hiring external agents or teacher trainers to give courses, and then the administration changes, or the year changes, the budget changes, or the course provider changes, and there's no continuity. So from, let's say, from one program to another, from one year to another, there's a lack of continuity because a lot of it due to the use of external agents or providers. And because governments tend to do that, to hire external agents to do it, there is a question of legacy in terms of a Ministry of Education, for example, or another authority won't have or keep that knowledge or build that knowledge internally. It will always depend on an external agent to provide them with the knowledge, and that is an interesting thing that was observed in that conversation. It is important for an education system to have this knowledge, to build this knowledge, to manage this knowledge internally as well. And thirdly, the question of who is the trainer, who is the mentor. In many contexts, there isn't a clear profile for these jobs. And again, often a good teacher, what is considered to be a good teacher, becomes a trainer or a mentor without really taking how to be a teacher trainer course or things like that. There aren't many courses, in fact, where they will prepare you to be a teacher trainer. There are many where you become a senior teacher or have a diploma in teaching, but a small component of those courses are actually for training trainers. So there's this question as well. And within institutions, schools, there isn't really someone who's called a teacher trainer in a regular public school, or a mentor. This role is usually delegated to someone who has another occupation, such as, I don't know, a supervisor, a coordinator, a teacher, senior teacher, etc. So again, institutionally, this is kind of tricky because a mentor or a trainer on paper is not really a trainer or a mentor, is something else. And then the roles sometimes might conflict. If I am a supervisor and I'm going to be the mentor of a teacher, a mentor shouldn't be a supervisor. So the one thing is development, the other is supervision. So these things are also quite tricky, and should be discussed and developed. So these are three of the many challenges. For more, you can refer to the report. And then a couple of areas for improvement would be the conditions for more teachers to become mentors. So we're talking about teachers from an education system to become mentors in that same system. So to have career plans, to have, well, to create the conditions so that less external agents would be needed and more people from that same system would be able to deliver CPD programs to their peers. One thing obviously is that this is not disregarding the role of external agents. In fact, in the same discussion, they talked about the importance of it. Someone who can take a look at the system from outside and maybe shake it a little bit and kind of try and get people out of their comfort zone. That's very important. And who will feed information and knowledge that is unknown to the community or to the system. But considering the challenges we just talked about, it's very important that a lot of the agents are from the system. So teachers talking to teachers, yeah. And then another area for improvement would be to have more training and development where education actually happens in schools. So less taking 200 teachers to a conference venue to have a whole day workshop or event, and more taking the trainers and the mentors to the schools to really learn the reality and the context of that, of what the teachers actually need. So more teacher development done in schools. That was one thing that was highlighted as an area for improvement in Brazil. Right. A couple of comments here in the chat box. Let's take a look at them. Right. Well, basically confirming some of the things that we had shared. Yeah, so Gisele here mentioned something extremely important. So not delegating training duties to teachers who are already overwhelmed or overworked and have to work in many different places. So there's something else. That is the bit about improving the conditions. So I can't remember the state where it happens in Brazil, but there was a case where there is a plan that they can reduce the contact hours of a teacher if this teacher proposes a training or mentorship scheme to the authority. So let's say a teacher would have between 20 and 30 contact hours, so classroom hours, and then they could, there is this policy where they can reduce, let's say 10 hours weekly in terms of contact hours, and then that teacher will spend those 10 hours planning and delivering training sessions to their peers. So this is a great example of how this can be improved internally in the system. Use the teachers you already have, but don't overload them. Just substitute the hours they would be spending in the classroom, and instead they will be spending those hours mentoring other teachers.
Just a point about some of the last thing you were talking about on the PowerPoint slide. I think, you know, a lot of organizations feel that training is getting someone to deliver a training session, and teacher development and training is a lot more than that. You know, as you suggested, bringing people in to work closely with teachers, either to mentor them and or for something like action research is one thing you can do, but also just actually giving the chance, for example, for peer observation to take place can be very rewarding. So teachers can learn from their peers by observing what's happening in the other classroom. So much of what happens in a classroom isn't shared with other teachers. I think it's a very easy way of opening up that and learning from each other.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. The champion teachers is a good example of that, of something that could address this challenge, where you have exploratory action research, and then in the next program, some of those champion teachers can become mentors of the new uh, champion teachers, and then so on and so forth. So you're not only developing a teacher, you're developing a community or a system where then they can go step up and become a mentor, and then so on and so forth. So this is again something that came up quite well in all of the workshops. It is teacher development is usually focused on the individual. So they will get a scholarship, or they will go to take a course or something like that. But it shouldn't be only focused on the individual. It should be focused on developing the system. So that's why we mentioned here legacy and information management internally, and continuity and things like that. So if governments keep on spending money on individual teachers, some of them will leave the system or the profession, and some of them will not, but will retain that knowledge to themselves or won't have anyone to share the knowledge with. So that should be investment on building or developing the system through teacher development. So that is again one of the, I think one of the main insights that we had in common in all three workshops.
Definitely. There are lots of different models on there for teacher development.
Right. I think we're getting to the end of the session. I'd just like to leave you a question here, if you could answer that in the chat box. The second one mainly, what new CPD opportunities would you like to have? I think it would be really useful for us to understand more about your needs, the people here and the people who will be with us in the online community of practice. What kind of new opportunities would you like to have? If you could type them in the chat box, that would be much appreciated.
Do you have any asks, any new CPD opportunities that you would like to have, Willy, while waiting for people to respond?
I really enjoyed, I had the opportunity last year to to write some lesson plans with teachers. I mean, I was the mentor, and the school teacher was taking a development program, professional development program. So we had the chance to write a lesson plan together. I think next would be I would like to have the opportunity to team teach with these same teachers or similar ones, same profile, let's say. So I think team teaching for me would be something I've done only a couple of times, very few, and definitely not enough. I think it's a great opportunity when you can share the classroom with another teacher.
Yeah, I think that is a good way of developing. And not only that, because you then have an instant shared experience that you can reflect upon together very easily after the class, don't you? Okay, let us know if you'd like your final chance to take the microphone and talk about this rather than the chat.
Right, Giselle, I just want to pick up something that was mentioned here. Giselle mentions regular online meetings divided by age. So for example, young learners, teens, so teachers could share experience. That's a good idea. I think we initially thought our Slack community, I don't know, Giselle, if you're there, but we divided it into channels that are divided by countries, and some of them activities such as, or strategies such as action research or monitoring evaluation. We could also have, for example, if there are people interested in discussing specifically strategies for teaching young learners, there could be a channel for this kind of thing as well. And once there is a group, in there, and there are some discussions we could definitely help you organize online meetings. So I think this is good input, and something we would like to have more from you, the participants, which is you can propose activities and we'll help you organize them. I don't think at this point for us to offer and to open chats for young learners teaching might not be the time, but if we see there are people interested, I think we can definitely help or facilitate that sort of activity, right?
Yeah, definitely. It's very easy to open up a channel or close one. So we can do that anyway, actually, Gisele. So if you like, I'll do that and I'll invite you to it. And I'll announce it in the general thread so other people can join as well. Just maybe because we're running out of time, as a final point, Willy, I'd just like to encourage people to join the Slack community and to use it to meet people, to share what you're doing, to ask questions, etc. I know it's difficult sometimes to find time in your day to actually go to somewhere new and to do it. But I think, in the long term, having this community of practice where people are actually collaborating and sharing knowledge will benefit so much of us. I think one of the things we want to do with this project is really to stop people from working in silos, to reinventing the wheel, to be able to be in touch with people in other countries and other systems that have similar problems and similar issues, and to be able to share good practice and to ask other people for ideas about what to implement, etc., or how to develop.
Great. Okay, so next on the 25th of March, we're going to have our third webinar talking about the experience we had in Mexico.